You haven't returned
You are gay!
Hey, and welcome back to Real Queer. My name is Cade, and without further ado, let's get to my top 10 of 2024. At number 10, I have Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa Frankenstein follows a young outcast who brings this man back to life, and you follow their love story as well as a murderous rampage. This movie was written by Diablo Cody, and if you know anything about me, it's how much I love Jennifer's Body. So of course, I was really excited to check this one out. I thought that the stylization of it was great. It being set in the 80s was a really good choice, as well as the soundtrack. I really enjoyed that. Catherine Newton did stand out. I liked her performance in this movie. And, you know, again, Diablo Cody, Jennifer's Body. Of course, I was going to check this out as soon as I possibly could. There are a couple of things that disappointed me about the movie. I feel like tonally it's not completely even, and there are some carryover jokes from Jennifer's Body, which I found a little silly. One in particular was where she was talking about how she couldn't even finish gym class, which is a deleted scene from Jennifer's Body. So it's kind of like a nitpick thing. It's a good movie for the most part, and other than those nitpicks, I think that I, generally recommend it. So that's why it's at number 10. At number 9, I have Azriel. Azriel follows a young woman in a world where no one speaks, and her journey of survival after a failed sacrifice by a religious cult faction. Anyway, she's trying to be sacrificed, and it doesn't work out. And everybody's pretty quiet because nobody could speak. It has something to do with religion. I'm not religious, so I can't really speak to it. But yeah, Azriel, all I really know is the angel of death. So going into the movie, I didn't really know what to expect. And I did like that there was no dialogue throughout the movie, because sometimes you just want to, experience a movie and let it wash over you. And it doesn't necessarily need to have dialogue to work. So I enjoyed that aspect. The writer, Simon Barrett, I think is his last name, also did You're Next and a recent movie called, why did I forget? It's not important, but to the point, he tends to write movies where it's like toward the end, a woman becomes a badass. And I'm not one to really complain about that, but when it's the same writer repeatedly, it does become a little boring. I would say that this movie, it did stand out in the body count, the gore, and just that general sense of female badassery. So that's something to enjoy about it. But as I said, when it comes to a writer repeating that same thing over and over again, it does become a little stale. And without that dialogue there to, I guess, get in with the character or feel something for them, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, good for her. So I don't know. It's gory. It's fun. It's a little movie. It's not long at all. So if you want to just kick back and watch something and not really think about it, then this is the movie for you. You'll probably think about it because it's like, why? Why is the world the way it is? But, take it or leave it. I enjoyed it. At number 8, I have Abigail. This follows a group of criminals who kidnap a teenage girl but get more than they bargained for. This is a vampire movie, and that's not really spoiling anything because the whole advertisement campaign was about her being a ballerina vampire. So yeah, I was there for Melissa Barrera. Catherine Newton is again in this movie. She's apparently just having a really good year in horror, so good for her. I really enjoyed that this movie felt like movies like a Dark Castle production, kind of like House on Haunted Hill. I like that one setting, big house, and you don't know what you're going to get as you turn a corner. So I enjoyed that aspect to it. I like radio silence, so I'm really gonna turn up for any movie that they do. And yeah, I enjoyed it as a whole. It's a fun horror movie, and if you like vampires and splatter, then you'll definitely enjoy this. And Melissa Barrera, I just love her. I love her, and it's very unfortunate what has happened with Scream, because now I don't want to watch any more Scream movies, but I'll watch anything that she's in. At number 7, I have Your Monster. After a devastating breakup, a young woman falls for a charming yet disturbing monster who lives in her closet. Yeah, it sounds a little weird. If you watch the trailer, you're going to think of Beauty and the Beast right away. And I think what I appreciated about this movie was that it was like a theater play. So I really enjoyed doing theater in high school and participating in plays, so I think that kind of made me enjoy this movie a little bit more than, say, other people would. But I just enjoyed the production of it, how it felt very theatrical, but also felt like you were watching a stage play. And I think Melissa Barrera stood out as far as her performance. The ending of the movie is a little jarring because you're kind of questioning the sanity of the character as everything progresses. And yeah, it's one of those good for her movies. So if you're into that, I would definitely check it out. And if you love crocheting or knitting, you're going to get that bug while you watch this movie, because nearly everyone is wearing something that has been crocheted or knitted. And I just wanted to crochet so bad while watching it. It's definitely a good movie, so I'd check it out. At number 6, I have Cuckoo. We follow a young woman and her family as they move to Germany, and some strange happenings begin. It's a really interesting movie, and I've never done so much homework about birds in my life so I could get a better understanding of what it's trying to say and what they're going for. So I really enjoyed that it was unique, especially visually. This movie is shot very beautifully, and I'm glad that I saw it in theaters because I don't think that it would have affected me as much at home. But seeing it on the big screen, it was gorgeous. And the cast is great. Hunter Schafer particularly is someone who stands out in the movie. Of course she needs to, because she's the star of the movie, but I don't know, something about her is just very hypnotic, and I enjoy watching her and her performances, though I haven't really seen her in anything else. I've seen like one episode of Euphoria, but I think she's great, and I just really liked her in this movie. It's very unique. Do your homework about birds because it'll help enlighten you, especially if you're not quite sure what's going on in the movie. It does go through some grief, which a lot of horror tends to do that now. It's stories about grief or trauma. We're getting into like the psychological, deeper meaning. And lately I find myself enjoying movies that are a bit more personable when it comes to just human psychology. I'm going to school for psychology in like 2 weeks. How exciting. But yeah, I'm really into movies that have a narrative, but also treat their characters with respect and don't necessarily treat them as characters in typical horror movies where it's like, I like big boobs, I'm gonna die soon, so see you later. Yeah, Cuckoo, very visually interesting. The story is interesting as well. And if you want to, you know, just sit down and enjoy a movie that looks beautiful, this is the one for you. At number 5, I have Alien Romulus. I was very excited to check this one out because I love Fede Alvarez. Evil Dead 2013 is one of my favorite horror movies, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Don't Breathe is another favorite of mine. That movie is just fucking crazy. Turkey basters, am I right? I was really looking forward to Alien Romulus just based off of Fede Alvarez being the director. I was really looking forward to it, and I was not disappointed, especially by the finale. What can I say without giving it away? There's a scene at not the beginning, but the ending of the movie, and it's kind of a reveal, which I don't want to ruin, but somebody that I sat near in the movie theater, they had an auditory gasp. They're like, and I felt the same way. I was like, girl, yeah, I get that. I think a lot of complaints are that it feels too similar to a lot of Alien movies, but when you're rebooting something, how do you not like take from the movies that have come before it? Like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I don't know. I get the gripes, but it didn't necessarily bother me. So yes, they do borrow from other movies, and they link into previous movies, especially Prometheus, that I feel like plays an important part in this movie, which is kind of disappointing because I love Prometheus and I wasn't a fan of Alien Covenant. So some of that like leading into the movie, I just don't want them to bring David back. I'm sick of David. I don't want to see it. I don't want the conclusion to that story. You killed Shaw, that's who I wanted, and now just let Fede do his thing. Ridley Scott, go away. I did like that this movie kind of stands on its own. Like, it does borrow those other elements from previous movies that had come before it, but I feel like it stands on its own and it's just a really good sci-fi horror movie. There are scenes in the movie that are very stylistic that I enjoyed, especially the one where she is shooting at the xenomorphs and the gravity is off and they're just spitting their acid all over the place and then going up into the elevator. There's the face hugger room, that was really good. I enjoyed the reds throughout that scene. There's a lot stylistically here that is cool. I really enjoyed this movie, and it paying homage to previous movies in the franchise didn't bother me whatsoever. At number 4, I have A Quiet Place Day One. This movie made me cry. It follows a woman on the day one, as the subtitle says, of the invasion of these aliens who use their hearing to essentially just destroy everything around them. But it follows Lupita Nyong'o and her cat as they navigate through the city and try to survive this invasion. Her character does have cancer, so I mean, it's just thinking about it, it's like, whew. Why am I got like goosebumps thinking about it, and I feel like I'm gonna cry. But yeah, I literally just cried throughout the whole movie. There were points where I was like questioning, is this even a horror movie? It feels so tender and just like realistic. It's like more down to earth. You're not really worried about what's going on with the aliens, but more invested in what's going on with the main characters. So I don't know. I just really enjoyed the connection made to the characters in the movie more than I was worried about the mythos of the aliens. It's a really good movie. And the cat is the goat, you know? There's that. At number 3, I have Smile 2. It follows Sky Riley and her descent into madness as she's being tormented by the Smile entity. If you had told me that Smile 2 was going to be better than the original, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But, you know, I watched it and it sure was. I wouldn't say... Well, it's hard to say. There are aspects of Smile 2 that I do enjoy more than I enjoyed the original Smile, but they're kind of even as far as quality goes. I recently rewatched Smile after having watched Smile 2, and I enjoyed that movie a lot more this time around. And I think as far as like the trauma aspects of it, the grief, everything that these characters have to go through before they are then tormented by this entity is just really messed up. Like, you feel for them and you hope that they make it through, but without spoiling things, it's just, you're experiencing the same turmoil if you're connected to these characters as they are going through in the movie. Probably not as dramatically, but I thought that was interesting. It's interesting to root for characters who are morally ambiguous. And yeah, Sky Riley is no different. She was ace character. I loved her throughout the movie. She goes through these traumas. She kind of, like, she does it to herself, I want to say, not necessarily. Like, there are things that are within her control that she could, you know, use to avoid situations, but yeah, it doesn't happen. So yeah, watching Sky Riley, listening to her music, most of the album is a bop. Like, I love Blood on White Satin, Death of Me, and New Brain. Doctor, I need a new brain. I love it. Anyway. What I really appreciated about Smile 2 and Smile is that these are like popcorn horror movies. You don't really expect much going into them, but narratively they do a really great job of making you feel for the characters and not necessarily making you feel like they're just doing a cash grab. So yeah, it's like I wouldn't say high art, like it's almost there. It's beautifully shot, and I feel like the way that they frame everything, the set pieces, like the characters not being two-dimensional, it really elevates a simple story. So Smile 2 is a great horror movie. I want to say that it's better than the original, but honestly I do feel like they're the same as far as the quality of the two films. And the ending of this one, it's not great, but what do you expect, you know? So it's a little silly, and I would watch 10 more of these movies. It's just too bad that spoiler, I'm not gonna say. At number 2, and I debated this for so long, but my number 1 spot, I just really enjoyed that movie, and it was hard not to put it where it is. So at number 2, we have The Substance. This follows a fading celebrity who uses a black market drug to become a younger, better version of herself. And it's just an experience. Every year we get a horror movie that is like overhyped and you're like, is it gonna live up to it? And The Substance lives up to it. Each time a horror movie is like overhyped and everybody's in love with it or enamored by it, I'm like weary to sit down and watch it. And there were parts of this movie that made me question it, but once you get through the entire thing, it's hard not to like it, especially after the movie. It's just something that you continue to think about. And I think stylistically, this movie is just generally a work of art. The visuals, the score, the performances, especially the score like stays in your mind. I could feel like the humming in my brain folds, you know? Demi Moore was fantastic in the movie. I didn't really feel anything for the younger version of herself because she's that female gaze portion of Demi Moore's character, so I don't know. It was hard to connect with her, especially because a lot of her characterizations just felt surface level. Like, you know what her ambitions were and what she wanted, but it wasn't necessarily a character worth rooting for. So yeah, anytime that Demi Moore wasn't on the screen, it was a little sad, but altogether this movie is really good. There was a little gripe that I had about it, which was we're talking about beauty standards, how women are kind of thrown away as they age, and I think being gay, the gay community is very harsh when it comes to like beauty standards. That was something that I could relate with, and especially that mirror scene, that's like I struggle with how I look, you know? I'm getting better. I'm like, yeah, I'm cute. Look at that guy. Struggling with that is something that I could relate with, and I feel like there are parts of this movie that are hard to watch, and that mirror scene specifically is like, it's hard to watch because it's something that I feel like a lot of us relate to and that we go through. So there are just so many like parts of this movie. Anyway, I think I have an unfinished thought. I know what I was gonna say. So there are moments in the movie where we're watching Sue, who is the younger version of Elizabeth, and she's taken over the job that Elizabeth used to have. And it's like this hyper-sexual, like very commercial aerobics video, workout video, they're dancing. And I thought it was an interesting choice to film it how I guess a man would, you know, like that male gaze of females. Like, I know that's something that we're talking about in the movie. It's like an underlined theme, but to me, it felt a little weird to film it the way that they did when we're criticizing the male gaze. Like, we're doing the same thing in this movie, and I guess there's probably more to it, but this is like just one little gripe that I had. We're leaning into the male gaze as she's doing these dance workout videos, and it just felt a little gross to me. I don't know. It didn't feel satirical enough for it to make sense in the movie, but that's my only gripe. I just wanted to get that off my chest, you know? But it's like, I don't know, it's perfect. It's a really good movie. And when you sit down to watch a movie, these are the experiences that you want to have, especially when it's like high art filmmaking. The cinematography is beautiful. And that score, again, just sticks in your brain fold. And that pump up the beat, you got to pump it up or turn it up, I don't know. Just watch the movie. The Substance, my guys, watch it. At number 1, as I said, I just could not shift my opinion about this movie because I just loved it so much. The First Omen. A young woman is sent to Rome to serve her sentence as a nun. Begin life of service as a nun, yeah, to properly put it. And there she begins to question her faith and uncovers a conspiracy. I didn't really know what to expect when I went into this movie because I'm watching a prequel to The Omen. The Omen is good. The score in that movie is fantastic. And if you sit down and watch it, I mean, it's an experience of its own. So sitting down to watch The First Omen, a movie that's coming out 50 years after the original, you're not really expecting much, you know? But damn, every frame of this movie is gorgeous. The performances in the movie are great. It's how you want to feel when you're watching a horror movie. It's very cinematic, it's creepy. There are just moments that make you question everything. And I feel like there were a lot of horror movies this year that focus on like female sacrifices, being like that sacrificial lamb, not being able to make their own choices about what's going on with their body or just their own choices in general. So it's very provocative as far as the times that we live in and these conversations that we have, especially politically. So I don't know. It's a very big feminist movie. Or not feminist movie, but feminist movements this year. So like, women, I see you, and I'm sorry that you have to go through it. It's awful. But The First Omen, again, the score, the homages, the homages to other horror movies. Can you tell I'm just very hyper and, excited to make a video? But yeah, they just really made a prequel work. The performances were great. It links up the way that it needs to, but this could have been a standalone movie and I would have liked it just as much. You don't even really need to see The Omen to experience this movie. I feel like it's just one that I really enjoyed and it didn't escape me as I made it through the year and watched other movies from 2024. It's great, and you should watch it immediately. I do have some honorable mentions, and if you know me, you know that I love my popcorn horror. Like, there are movies that are like bad, but they're popcorn horror movies, like Truth or Dare, or The Bye-Bye Man, Countdown, movies like that are just like fun to sit down and watch people die, So Tarot was one that I enjoyed this year. I thought it was funny. It was just like, it was a good escapism, like horror movie. You didn't really have to think about it. I enjoyed what was going on. It was silly, people were dying, and the creature designs in that movie were really good. Blink Twice was another movie that I really enjoyed, and it is in my top 10, but here we talk about horror, so Blink Twice, I would say, kind of is a horror movie, but more so like a psychological thriller. There's a lot going on, and for it to be Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut is pretty impressive. The movie is very stylistic, and there's just a lot going on. It's a really good movie. It's really good. In a Violent Nature was one that I also enjoyed. I didn't expect much from it because I feel like it was kind of divisive. Some people were enjoying it, others weren't. But I liked that little walkthrough with the killer as he's going around and just like killing people. It was good. It was gory. It was fun. I especially enjoyed that yoga kill. So, see the movie. Form your own opinion, I liked it, and they're making a sequel, so I think I'll check that out as well. And I really enjoy hiking, so this movie was like hiking with a guy who's a little crazy. Oddity was another good one. I thought it was creepy. I don't know. Most of the movie was really good. I'll say that. I would say like maybe the first 50 minutes of it I really enjoyed, but then toward the end it's like, oh, it got stupid. So yeah, watch it if you want to. But yeah, that's my top 10 list and some honorable mentions. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you enjoyed 2024 horror. I know a lot of people are saying that this was like the best year for horror, but I don't see it. Yeah, there are other horror movies that have come out, like Strange Darling. I wasn't big on that one. I saw Nosferatu, and unfortunately I just didn't fall under the spell like everybody else did. And that was a big bummer to me because I did avoid all of the marketing for the movie and I was really, really looking forward to seeing it. So, yeah, my theater experience was like this. Yeah. Happy New Year. Bye.
I'm gonna leave, and no one is gonna stop me.